kitchen. Welcome to you all out there. Please, if you're joining me live, say hello. Let me know what country you are joining us in from. So we're in for a special treat today. We are making a vegan carrot cake, but it's not only vegan, it's also gluten-free. And I'm also going to be talking a little bit more about egg functions and egg replaces, because I know that it's a really hot topic in the realm of vegan baking. So this carrot cake today, I was really inspired to do it. I know over the Easter break, a lot of people were making carrot cake, and I haven't done this recipe before on the channel, and I think as a chef, as a baker, as a pastry chef, it's very important to have a couple of gluten-free recipes under that pastry tool belt to be able to offer your guests who are either gluten intolerant or restraining from gluten, or who are celiac. So I'm going to show you today this carrot cake. So it has 3 different elements. We have the cake element. We also have the cream cheese frosting, and of course we are making vegan today. And I'm also going to show you a little garnish, which you can also use for many different applications, which is a grain-free granola, or like a crumble. So we're going to start off with making our garnish, which is going to be our grain-free granola. And then we're going to start going over our egg functions, and I'm going to show you some different egg replaces, so you can understand why veganizing some of your favorite classic bakes maybe are not working when you are doing them vegan. So without further ado, let's get into it. I'm so excited to show you this. I just came up with it yesterday actually, so it's throwing in a little extra something for you folks. And we've been snacking on these all morning. It's absolutely delicious. So I've just prepped all my ingredients out here. So I call it the carrot cake grain-free granola. So what we have here, these are the elements. So for our grain-free granola, we are using our walnuts, which I've just put in the food processor until they're finely crushed up. And we have also some desiccated coconut. We have a little bit of cinnamon. We have some shredded carrot. I just did this by hand, but you could also, if you're making large batches of it, you can also put it through your food processor or your RoboCoupe. We have some sugar. Okay. I'm just using white granulated because here on the channel we always want to show you how to make things super low cost. I've got a saucepan here with some water. You could also substitute this for like raw sugar if you want, or if you're wanting to use a liquid sweetener, you could skip this step of melting it into the water and just use like a liquid sweetener instead. Okay, so I'm going to pop my sugar into my water here, and I'm also going to add the carrot as well. Okay, so we're going to stick this onto our heat over here, and we'll get that off the lock. There we go. And we're going to start melting down this sugar and just bringing it up to a simmer. So we kind of get like this carrot infused simple syrup, which is very delicious, and it adds a lot of flavor and sweetness from the sugar and then also from the carrots. Okay, so we're just going to heat that through. We just want to get that sugar dissolved and then bring it up to a simmer for a couple of minutes. Let me see if I can get both of us in the shot here. Let's see. There we go. Okay, cool. So we have our nuts and everything. So I'm just going to mix all of that together while we're waiting, and pop our cinnamon in there. Okay. Mix this all up. So the inspiration behind this grain-free granola is I used to do something very similar in one of the cafes that I worked at in Sydney. It was basically just these 2 elements with a liquid sweetener. But the liquid sweeteners like maple syrup and things like that can be really pricey. So this is a way that you can reduce your costs. And also we're adding some additional fiber with the carrot. So, you know, we always want to add more fiber on our diet. It's going to make us feel fuller for longer. And in this day and age, when we have so many processed foods out on the market now, you know, a lot of that fiber's been stripped away. So it's a nice kind of sneaky way to get fiber in. I'm just going to see if any of you folks are watching us live while we are waiting. All right, there we go. So our carrot is simmering nicely. So once all that sugar's dissolved, we're going to simmer it for about 2 minutes. And I've just prepared a nice, I've got a big oven, so I've just prepared a big tray. So this would be like a full sheet pan, I think. Or this is like a commercial size large pastry sheet pan, or you can use 2 half sheet pans for my Americans out there, okay? There should be plenty of space. So I've just preheated my oven to 130 degrees with a fan. If you don't have a fan, just bump up the temperature a little bit. And if you are using a combination oven, you want to get the exhaust so we can get it like nice and crunchy and crispy, nice and quickly. All right, so this is simmering up nicely. We're having like a nice, beautiful carrot aroma here. Some carrot aromatherapy. Alrighty. Smells so good. Alright, so just simmering it a little bit more. So I want you folks to tell me at home, what is your favorite vegan egg replacer? What is something that you often use? What's like your go-to egg replacer? Because that's something we're going to be talking about very soon in this video, because I know a lot of my students, when they come to the pastry and the baking courses, it's one of the things that they always ask me. They're like, oh, it's really hard to replace eggs. You know, what's your favorite egg replacer, Jessica? Alrighty, it's coming along nicely. Give it a little bit more of a simmer. We're going to be talking about a few today. I kind of picked 4 that I know a lot of you guys out there are using, which is chia seeds, flax seeds, aquafaba, and xanthan gum. So tell me if that's one of the egg replacers that you use. All right, I think that this carrot mixture looks good to me. So, bring you down here. All right, so we're just going to mix everything. Turn this off. So I just want to add this carrot and sugar syrup mixture to all of my nuts here, and the coconut and the cinnamon. We're just mixing everything together until it's nice and moistened. Oh, you can smell that coconut as soon as that hot carrot mixture comes in, and it really smells like carrot cake. I remember my mum used to make carrot cake and she would put pineapple and coconut in it. She said it was a carrot cake that she had when she was in Bali when she was in her 20s, and she fell in love with it, so she used to make carrot cake with pineapple and the coconut. All right, so this is all nice and moistened now, so we're just going to spread it onto our tray. get all of this out. And so basically this turns into granola, okay? So trust me, trust the process. But there's no oil in it, there's no oil in it, there's no grains in it. We're just getting all the healthy fats from the coconut and the nuts. Okay. And just spreading this out. Just wanted to get like a nice big tray because I kind of like to spread it out. It's going to dry out a lot faster. And that carrot's going to go really crisp and crunchy like a wafer. It's delicious, delicious, delicious. All right, so I'm going to pop this into my oven. I'm going to do about 20 minutes. But I'm going to check it after 15 minutes, and then after that, at home, you want to go check it like every 5 minutes or so. So I'm going to pop this into my oven right now. We'll be back in a jiffy. We'll set 20 minutes, 15 minutes rather, and then we'll check it. So let's go in 15. All right, sweet. Okie dokie. Excellent. All right, so we have our carrot granola in the oven crisping up for us. So now we're going to work on our second element of our carrot cake, which is our frosting. And while we are beating our vegan margarine until it's nice and fluffy, we can start talking about vegan egg replacers. So for our cream cheese frosting, we are using, of course, a vegan cream cheese. I've already measured that out and set it aside. You want to make sure that both your cream cheese and your vegan margarine is room temperature. If you forgot to take it out the night before, just put it in a heat-safe bowl, 5 seconds at a time in the microwave, and you just want to make sure that it's not cold anymore, that it's nice and squidgy. I have all of my vegan margarine here in my bowl, and I'm using my paddle attachment. I'm going to get this on my mixer now. I'm going to start beating it until it's nice and fluffy. So I'm going to pop that on now, and then we can have a little chat about our vegan egg replacers. And I've just got this on like a medium speed over here on the mixer. You can see, have it over here. There we go. So lift that up a little bit. Okay, excellent. So now we're going to be talking about vegan egg replacement. So that is why we're here. And it's even more important when we talk about gluten-free application, because when the gluten actually is replacing, gluten basically holds stuff together. So a lot of people, when they're replacing eggs for vegan recipes, is they're using an egg replacer which is just doing the binding. Now eggs don't just do binding, they have 8 major functions, and I'm going to go over those shortly. But gluten also helps hold stuff together. So if we remove gluten, we need to replace it with something that holds it together. And so in the traditional world, in traditional baking, people would use eggs because it can hold stuff together because of its functions of coagulation or setting at temperature, and also binding. Okay, so we're going to be using an egg replacer in this recipe. Now, I always have 2 categories of my students, and when I speak to them, I often ask them this question. So they really love to learn how to replace eggs, but I always ask them, are you on the category of, do you want to learn the science behind it and what eggs are doing and how to replace them? Or do you just want some great foundational recipes that work, right? And neither is bad or good. When you go to pastry school, they very rarely talk about the science behind what the ingredients are doing. You're given recipes and you're taught how to do things and you're taught the methods of how to do things, but often the why is left out. So when traditional pastry chefs start making vegan recipes, it's very foreign to them. And I have so many chefs who come and train with me here at Vegan Gastronomy to learn more about, you know, how to replace eggs. Because, yeah, often we don't even know, you know, why we use them, okay? All right, so first thing first, let's talk about what eggs actually do in a recipe, okay? Because we're not using them, we need to understand why. So, of course, I'm going to show you a recipe today that works, but if you want to understand why, this is the science. So, we have here on our chart, binding. Very, very common. Most vegan egg replacers are just doing this, yeah? Thickening, coagulation, and setting, okay? So that's when you stick an egg in a fry pan, what happens to it? It goes hard. It sets at high temperature, okay? Setting. Leavening and foaming. Have you ever made a meringue? What happens when you whip egg whites? They foam, okay? We have gloss and coating. What do you do when you make breads and you want to brush it with an egg wash? What happens to it when it comes out? It goes brown and it goes shiny, okay? Color and flavor. So eggs impart a savory flavor to baked goods, which a lot of people forget. And also the color, of course, eggs are yellow. So think of a brioche, you know, that's kind of it's got savory notes, but it's also yellow. Emulsification. This is one that people get confused with binding. Emulsification is, have you ever made a mayonnaise? Okay, you start off with egg yolks and you slowly add oil, and it suspends that oil with the egg whites, okay, and the vinegar together. So it combines fats and waters together. It's kind of like if you ever made a salad dressing, if you don't emulsify it, over time it will separate. So the oil will go on the top and the vinegar will go down the bottom. And emulsification is when it's shaken up, it's going to stay in that suspended space, okay? Moisture and enriching. So again, let's use a brioche. So brioche is what we call an enriched dough. So it's like a dough that has a lot of butter in it or a lot of fat. So eggs have a lot of fat, and that's going to impart moisture because it gives us the feeling in our mouth that something is wet or moist, even though we're not adding water. Okay, and this is really, really important for gluten-free application. Have you ever had a dry gluten-free cake? I know I have. And crumb structure and mouthfeel. Have you ever had a vegan cake and it looks beautiful, you cut it, it looks great, and then you put it in your mouth and it just kind of sticks to the roof of your mouth? It doesn't have that crumb structure or feel in your mouth that a traditional cake does. Okay? This is what we talk about crumb structure or the mouth feel of the product. And this is often coming down to the use of eggs or the proteins in the product. Okay? So that's our egg functions. Now let's talk about some replacements. I'm just checking on my margarine here. I'm just going to scrape it down because I've only got a small amount here today that we are doing. And we can get this back on. We'll whip it up a bit more. Alrighty. Great, okay. So let's talk about our egg replacers that I'm showing you today. I'm going to bring this down so you can see. I'm going to turn this around. So can you see that? Let's bring it down really, really close. Excellent. All right. So we have, I might put this guy here. And this one here. There we go. We have some egg replacers here. Now, let's start off with maybe one of the most popular ones, which is flaxseed. Yeah? Have you guys used this for your vegan cakes? It's a nice one to kind of start off with when you are baking vegan. This, out of the 8 functions that we talked about, I've covered them all up here because we're going to, It replaces one of them, okay? This replaces one. Binding. Now, if we're only replacing one function in our cake, what do you think is going to happen to our cake if all these other things are not being replaced? It's probably not going to work. Veganizing our cake is probably not going to work with this. Especially if you want to use it to make like a vanilla sponge cake or something, you're going to get like little brown flecks in there too. So it's not a great egg replacer. Okay, let's go into another one which actually has a little bit more functions than the flax seed. Okay, so we're going to go chia seed now. Chia seed, the good old chia seed, chia pudding everyone's been making. Now, chia seed has two functions. Well, it's more like 1.5 really. So we're back on the binding, which I mentioned a lot of vegan egg replacers do. And then the other one that we have is moisture and enrichment, but it doesn't really do the enrichment part. It's just going to help maintain the moisture a little bit, but you can't add it to a recipe like, for example, like a brioche or something like that. You're still limited because, again, look at it. It's going to impart this color or these flecks into your product, okay? All right, let's move on to the next one. All right, I'm going to talk about xanthan gum now. Xanthan gum. So this is one that's often used in gluten-free application as well, because you can use it to replace, help to replace gluten, but also you can use it to replace eggs. Now, the biggest mistake people make is they put too much of it, and then you end up with this disgusting gummy cake that's inedible. So adding this to a recipe can be really difficult because you don't know how much to add often. So this replaces two functions. Oh look, we're back at binding again. And then we talked about this one, crumb structure and mouthfeel. This is going to help a little bit with your crumb structure and your mouthfeel. It's not going to be the best replacement because remember, as I mentioned, if you put too much, it's going to ruin your cake. But look how many other functions we're still not replacing. Now, maybe one of the most talked about egg replacers is this one here, the good old chickpea, aquafaba. So aquafaba is basically these chickpeas that are being cooked in water, and you reserve the water. You don't throw out the soaking water, you cook it in the soaking water and you reserve that water. Now, I know everybody wants to use this egg replacer for everything, but unfortunately, if you've tried it, it's probably failed, and I'll show you why. Aquafaba replaces two functions, only 2 of the 8. So an interesting one that it replaces, which is not as common in most vegan egg replacers, foaming and leavening. We talked about meringue or making foams. But the problem is it doesn't do some of the other things that a traditional egg would do when you are foaming and leavening. The other one it does is, which is another interesting one, is emulsification. So remember I was talking about making a mayonnaise? You can use aquafaba to make a mayonnaise. It helps with when you eat your cake, like it's going to combine the oil and the water components in there nicely. So it's going to help a little bit with your overall finished product. But still, guys, look, we're only doing 2 out of the 8. All right, so my vegan margarine is getting nice and fluffy now. So while we're chatting, I'm just going to put my vegan cream cheese in, and we're going to keep on whipping this up. So while you have a think about those vegan egg replacers. Okay. And if you are interested in learning more about the science behind all of this, this is what I teach in my vegan baking and pastry classes. And you can spend as much time as you like learning all this stuff. I love helping you folks online with all of this information. This is my wheelhouse. All right, moving on. Now, this is the egg replacer that we're using today's video. It's called PANACEG. And this was an egg replacer that I developed for Free From That Vegan Gastronomy. And the reason that I developed it is people would come to my classes and they would say, but Jessica, what's your go-to vegan egg replacer? Like, what's the best one? Like, if you could just choose one, I'm like, you can't choose one. I just showed you before. Like, you can't choose one because they only have one or two functions. And combining them together is really complicated because it doesn't work so easily. You have to kind of really understand the science. It takes a long time. So that's why I developed this, which is called PANACEG. And you use it in the same way that you do eggs. And what PANACEG does, it does binding. It thickens, coagulates, and it sets. It leavens and it foams. It adds flavor. Okay, it doesn't do the color, but that actually can be an advantage for you. So you can actually make cakes which are lighter. Okay? You can add your color. Okay? It adds flavor, it adds the savory flavor. Okay, next. Gloss and coating. Yes, you can use it as an egg wash and it's going to brown your goods and it's going to make it glossy. Emulsification. If you want, you can use this to make a mayonnaise. I don't care. It works. It also emulsifies your fat and liquid components in your recipe. Moisture and enrichment. Yes, and I'll go a step further. It also helps with freeze-thaw stability because it is going to help retain the moisture. Crumb structure and mouthfeel. This is going to improve this. And this is something that you'll notice immediately when you start using this product. That's my oven. Let's go check it out. Well, it looks like we need now another about 10 minutes on the clock. Get this back in. So our crumble's looking great. Do another 10 minutes, I think should be done. All right, so I hope you enjoyed that little lesson, guys, on vegan egg replacement. I hope that was helpful for you and it gives you a little bit more of an insight as to why maybe some of your cakes at home are not working. Okay, so I'm gonna put all of this aside now. We can finish our recipe because, as I said, sometimes you just need a great recipe that works. So that's what we're doing. So because I'm using PANACEG today, we need to prepare our PANACEG mixture. It's so easy to prepare. So for each egg, you want 5 grams plus 45 grams of water, or if you're using spoons, it's 2 teaspoons to 3 tablespoons of water. So 2 teaspoons of PANACEG to 3 tablespoons of water per egg, all right? So I'm actually replacing 5 eggs today, which I know is a lot for a cake. Usually, if you're making it vegan, remember, this replaces all 8 functions. So we can actually use recipes that traditionally would use a lot of eggs, yeah? So this makes it really fun in the kitchen. You can actually really have a lot of fun. All right, so all I'm gonna do, I have my 30 grams of PANACEG here, 270 mils of water, or grams of water, and I'm just gonna combine those two together. And you wanna set it aside for about 15 minutes. Usually I'll do this the first thing and then I'll go prep all my other ingredients while I'm waiting. Okay, you just leave it outside. So while that's doing its thing, we're going to finish off our frosting, which I've got over here. We can put all of our egg replacement stuff away over here. You can use that for another recipe. Okay, so this is looking nice and fluffy. Look at that. So that is our vegan margarine and vegan cream cheese. So I'm just going to scrape everything down. I want to make sure that everything is getting incorporated nicely. Because sometimes when you're doing like a smaller batch, things kind of get stuck around the sides. Okay. All right, get this back on. And while this is mixing, we can sift our icing sugar. Okay, so you're probably thinking, Jess, this is like so much icing sugar. But when sugar is powdered like this, it always looks bigger because it spreads out more. Okay, so I always like to get myself a piece of baking paper when I'm sifting, and I'm going to do about half of this. Sift it onto my paper. Okie doke. So, yep, this is looking good. Just going to get it nice and smooth. Do one more scrape down. Tell me, is carrot cake one of your favourite cakes? I was asking my hairdresser yesterday if they had carrot cake here in Greece, and she said she tried it for the first time the other week and she loved it. She said it's one of her favourite cakes now. Maybe I'll stop by and give her a slice of this one, see what she thinks. Okay. Okay, so that's looking good. I'm going to add my icing sugar now. So half my icing sugar, we sifted. Now this part you want to just kind of do it really slowly. I kind of like to just pulse it. Let's see me over here. There we go, that's better. So I'm just kind of pulsing it right now. There we are. So we don't want it flying everywhere, and then just stick it on the low setting. All right, so once it's kind of mixed together, scrape down those sides. And we can get it back up to like a medium speed. Get that going for a few minutes. I'm going to sift the rest of my icing sugar while that's mixing up. You want to give it a couple of minutes. Have our icing sugar on the ready. Yes, Manuel's on the live right now and he's saying, it's like I was saying, like the Jenga game. Have you guys ever played Jenga where you have like all the stack of bricks? If you think about egg replacement being some of those bricks, so say if you had like, in the pack if there's 80 bricks and 10 bricks represent one egg function, if you're using the, for example, aquafaba, which replaces two functions, you have to take 75% of those bricks out. What do you think is going to happen? The Jenga is going to be falling over in no time. So that's why when you veganize cake recipes, they often don't work, because people don't realize they have to replace those egg functions. All right, this is looking nice and fluffy. Let's do another scrape down here. And I'm going to get in the rest of my icing sugar, and then we're going to let this go for about 8 minutes or something. And then we can get onto our cake. So again, just kind of pulse it, just to get it started, so we don't get all that sugar everywhere. I think I just breathed it in. It's like smoking sugar. And then once it kind of just comes together in a ball, take it down, give it a good scrape down. Wonderful. Oh, and for those of you folks asking what kind of cream cheese I use, if you didn't know, Life is actually a Greek company and they sell vegan cream cheese, so I'm using their product today. Not sponsored. But yeah, it's a nice convenient product. All right, so you can pop this aside. Oh, you know what, I'm gonna reuse this paper. I'm gonna reuse this. All right, let's get 8 minutes on the clock. Get 8 minutes. Perfect. All right, 8 minutes. Let's try and do our cake in 8 minutes. I don't know if we can, but we'll try. We'll get everything prepared. All right, so vegan carrot cake. So we are using our vegan egg replacer, which we have already prepared. And as you can see the viscosity has started to change. It's going to be a little bit thicker than a traditional egg, and you can see it does have a little bit of a color to it. It's a little bit yellow, but it's not super dark. So you can make your cakes a little bit lighter, but if you're using it to make, say, like a butter cake or something like that, if you want to add a little bit of color, you can just add a little bit of vegan food coloring to increase the color. All right, so let's talk about the flours that we're using, because we are going gluten-free today. Because here on the channel we're all about low cost. So I just went ahead and got my cheap grocery brand gluten-free flour. I think it's usually they're a combination of like potato, corn, tapioca, something like that. So I'm using that. But to replace some of the functions of gluten, again, I'm using Panaseg, but I'm using it in its dry form. And I'm just going to sprinkle that in. So that's going to add a little bit more coagulation, holding stuff together, binding, okay? So that's in there. And in my little bowl here, I have some cinnamon for flavor, and then we have some leavening agents, so baking powder, baking soda, and salt. Something to watch out for is sometimes the gluten-free flours already have salt, so if they do, don't add the salt, because then it can get really, really salty. Just check it. All right, so we are going to sift all of our flours, and I like to do this 2 times because I do find that the gluten-free flour sometimes can be a bit clumpy. So I'm just sifting this all up. So sift that. A man saying it was his favourite cake and he had it for his 30th. Or Stephanie. I'm not sure who's commenting here in the office. I know Stephanie probably loves this frosting. She loves sweet, savoury things together. So I can understand it was probably Stephanie, I would say. She loves sweet and savoury things together. It's like cheese, carrot. Can't go wrong. Nuts. So I can just hear my oven going off. So hopefully our carrot cake granola is all ready. Let's go take a look. Oh. Almost there. I think 5 more minutes. So this is why you've got to just check it. You've got to check it every couple of minutes. Alrighty. Get on 5 more minutes. And we'll be good to go. Alright, so I have all of my flours all sifted twice and leavening agents, they're all done. So the other elements of our dish, we have sugar here. I also have some shredded carrot, and I like to shred it nice and fine. I also have some walnuts, and we are using a flavourless oil. So I'm using sunflower oil, but you can use any kind of flavourless oil, that's fine. Okay? And because it's oil, it's not going to go hard, so this cake is always really nice and moist. It's really delicious. Stephanie's just saying, yes, it was her. She loves carrot cake. All right, I'm going to grab myself another bowl. Let's get this other mix going on here. Look at that, we're doing 2 mixes today. While our frosting is mixing for another few minutes. Alrighty. And we get to see, this recipe is great because you guys get to see some of the abilities of the Panaseg in action, which is really nice and fun. And there we go. Oops. Okay, so again, we're going to use our paddle, and we're going to go in with our vegan egg, which is our Panaseg, which has been sitting for like 10 minutes or so, 10, 15 minutes. And we're going to pop this straight into our bowl. Okay. Now I'm going to pop this onto my mixer here. I'm going to bring you folks down so you can see what is happening. There we are. Great. Medium speed. I'm going to start mixing it. And actually, one of the functions, remember we talked about, that the Panaseg does, bring our little chart back out, is foaming and leavening. So we're actually going to be foaming it up a little bit here. We're not going crazy, but we are foaming it up. All right, I'm just grabbing myself a spoon. We're going to actually start adding our sugar slowly. Stephanie's saying that it was a surprise party and they knew to make this cake for me. It was yummy, but the one that you make is better. Aw, thanks, Steph. All right, so we're kind of like on a medium, high speed sort of situation going on here. All right, I have my sugar. You want to use caster sugar? I don't know, we can never find it here in Greece. So I'm just using white sugar, which I put in the blender for a little bit. And you want to start adding your sugar like 1 spoonful at a time while you're mixing. And that's actually going to help it to start foaming a little bit. Okay? You see, we're just adding it 1 spoon at a time, slowly. And we'll get foamy. I don't need to be, for this particular recipe, it doesn't need to be like super foamy, but I want to incorporate a little bit of air in there. Because our frosting's almost done. I'm going to take that off now. Already done our 8 minutes. Look at that, whoa. At this stage, it's going to look a little bit soft. So pop a lid on it. And you want to put this into the refrigerator while you start preparing everything else, okay? So I'm going to pop this into my fridge. And I can get my granola out. That is ready. Fabuloso. Okie doke. Oh, hot tray. All right, let's have a look. Carrot cake, granola. I'm gonna put this on our cooling rack behind us. cooling trolley. Oh, you can probably already see. I'm going to bring you guys down so you can see. Can you see it getting foamy already? So it's pretty crazy how it works. All right, getting foamy. Let's keep on going in with our sugar. So once it starts kind of, you can see it's changing color, you can go a little bit faster in with your sugar. So if you folks saw, we did like a Genoise sponge cake a couple of weeks ago on the channel. And traditionally a Genoise would use like a whole egg that you foam, so there you go, Panaseg does it all. It's kind of, we say it's a bit of a cheat in the kitchen, but you know, who doesn't love a good cheat? And if people in the traditional baking world can use eggs, we should be able to have an alternative available. So what I'm doing now, guys, is I'm just slowly streaming in my oil to, again, we're doing another function. Look at that. Emulsification, right? So I'm slowly mixing this in. If you don't have a cake which has had the fats emulsified well in, it's going to be really, really greasy, and or it could also fall apart as well if it's not emulsified well. Okay. So in the recipe you'll see that this cake I would say is enough for about 16 servings, so it's quite a large cake. You can go ahead and do a half recipe if you want. Probably won't work in a mixer, you can just use hand beaters. But because it freezes so well, I always like to do a full recipe, and then you can always freeze half the cake or portion it out and have it for later. Okay, so we're just going in with the rest of our oil. All right, done. Okay, so that's all in. Now we're going to start adding our carrots and our walnuts. So the walnuts, in some recipes they call for just chopped walnuts, but I'm actually using them kind of finely chopped or kind of ground. There's still some pieces in there, but yeah, anyway, that's the texture. So I just wanted to show you folks the texture that we're looking for. Look at this. Have you ever seen that with any other vegan egg replacer? Like Aquafaba doesn't do this, guys. Okay, so next we're going to go in with our carrot and our walnuts. Can I see the recipe, please? Yes, so if you folks want the recipe, it is in the description box below. Just click the little arrow down and you'll see the recipe is there, okay? And in the recipe, if you click on Panaseg, it will take you to the store where to find it. It's super inexpensive. We sell it in packs of 6. I have 60 grams, so that's like having 6 dozen eggs. At the moment, I think it's around the €20 mark. Or you can purchase it in bulk in 10 kilograms with free shipping. Super inexpensive, okay? So it's like, it's on par, same cost as eggs or cheaper than eggs, depending on where you are in the world. Because we're all about making vegan food attainable and sustainable here at Vegan Gastronomy. We want it to be low cost and delicious, But you know, we're taking a modern approach, you know. I think gone are the days of thankful vegans. Everyone wants to eat vegan food right now, come on. All right, so carrots, walnuts, done. Next, we're gonna add our flour. So I always like having it in this paper, see, it's so much easier. So let's put half in. We're gonna just go nice and slow. Remember, you can just pulse it. And then when it's almost mixed, stop, put the rest in. Okay. And then if you can use this paper to line your tray. I've already lined my tray, so I can use that for another time. Okay. Got a little bit on the side, so you can get that in. Sometimes it's a little bit hard when you're doing a large batch. All right. Scrape down the sides here. And we'll do one last mix. Now in the recipe link you'll actually find I do a classic and a gluten-free. I'm doing the gluten-free one today, but to be honest I actually prefer the gluten-free one. I don't know why, I just think it tastes better. I think it's maybe because you can taste like the nuts more or something, but it's delicious. All right, so just mix together. You don't have to really worry too much about over-mixing when you're doing a gluten-free recipe, because remember there's no gluten, so that is kind of like an advantage too. So if you're making, if you're not so confident with making cakes, if you do this gluten-free recipe, you're not gonna like over-mix it, so that's always good. All right, I'm just kind of going through just to make sure everything's evenly distributed. Okay. Now the way that I am baking this today is I'm not actually baking it in the 4 cake tins as is mentioned in the recipe. I'm actually doing it in a tray. So I'm using this is a half sheet pan. So if you're in the US, I'm using a half sheet pan. And what I like to do is cook it like in this tray, and then I just cut it in half, and I'm doing it 2-layer, okay? And I'll show you that shortly. All right, so I'm just gonna pour this into my tray. And I have my oven preheated, and that's gonna go in. I find with my combi oven, it takes about 30 minutes. And your home oven, it might be like the same time or maybe a little bit longer, but just have a check on it at about the 25-minute mark. And don't use your finger, it won't work so well. Just use like a knife or a skewer or a toothpick, and if it comes out clean, you're good to go. All right, so I'm just spreading this out. Focus down. There we go. And you can play around with the spices in this, like if you like your carrot cake with ginger, or if you like it with pumpkin pie spice, or back home we use mixed spice. If you like those flavors, you can do that, or cardamom is lovely. I just did the classic just with cinnamon. I think that pleases everybody. So that's a nice one just to, you know, to stick with if you're trying to please a bigger crowd of people. Just keep it simple. All right, so I'm going to pop this into the oven after the video. I'm just going to stick this on the side. Let's see if this is... Okay, I'm just going to take this time because I want to show you... Ow. My tray is still very hot. All right. I just wanted to show you this. This is our carrot cake granola, grain-free granola. It's still kind of hot. I already have some that I made yesterday that I broke up. And you have like these little clusters. They're so yummy. But see how it's just starting to cool in the edges here, and then you can kind of pick it up. See, look at those clusters, and it's like so crunchy. You hear that? It's so good. Yum. We were all eating it this morning. Okay. Let's put that aside before I eat the whole tray. Okay. So, I'm going to get my cake out and I'll show you the steps. I'm not going to frost it with you guys because I think you get the idea. We'll do like more decorating together. Okay, so I'll show you what the cake looks like once it's baked. So this is my tray that I baked in, remember? Now, I made 2 cakes out of this. So I cut it in half. You can see the cross section there. And then I cut this in half again, and then frosted, and then stacked and layered, okay? So once my frosting is a little more chilled, I'm going to do that to this one later today. Find a good home for it. But in the meantime, I already prepared one ahead of time for you folks, so we can get on with it and do the fun part. Okay, so let's come down with me here. All right, so here we have it. As I mentioned, that was half of that sheet pan. Cut in half again, frosting in the middle, frosting on the top. However much you want, however much you like, okay? So this has been chilling in my fridge. You can use some extra frosting or whatever frosting you have at home. I actually had just some spare frosting in my fridge. This was just a salted caramel buttercream. So I'm going to be using that. We have some questions. We are the main sellers of potato protein. I also saw, were you selling potato protein? Okay, if you're looking for the potato protein products, guys, just go to freefromthat.com. Any products that we use in recipes, if you go to the recipe, if there's anything in blue, that means it's a link. So you can click on that and it'll take you exactly where you need to go. Okay? Alrighty, so I've got these nice little cards, and I think this is a nice way to serve your cake on. If you have a food service business or for your patisserie. So I just kind of cut these so I can kind of get an idea. So let's get a nice clean edge. Beautiful. And you always want to clean after each cut, guys. And one of the things with gluten-free pastries is traditionally, as we mentioned, they're often really, really crumbly and dry. Does that look crumbly or dry to you? I don't think so. Okay, and now I'm going to go down this side. I'm terrible at keeping edges really square, so that's why I'm using this. And we're going to enjoy these trimmings. Staff always get the good trimmings. Okay, so I just cut this because I know this is the size that I need. And then again, I can go down. Okay, I'm going to do one more. So that's the width that I need. Great. And then we're going to divide this into 2. Trim this side. Great. you'll see pastry chefs do this all the time. They'll get out a ruler and you'll be like, why are you trying to make it so perfect? But it is nice if they're all the same size, and then when you're in the cafe or the bakery, they look lovely all lined up together, see? Okay, so it didn't take too long. So we can get them on our cards. Now when you put them on your card, you always want to have something that's going to help stick it. So you can get yourself a little bit of frosting, so a little bit of whatever you have, if you're just using leftover from your cream cheese. And then we can get our cake here. Clean off any little crumbs. And then it should fit perfectly on your card because we use that as a guide, see? And let's do another one. Put a bit of frosting down. Do these other two. And you can buy like these cards online. You don't have to be a pastry shop to do it. You can make them for your friends and give them to them like this. So this is quite a large piece. How many do we get? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 with a little bit of extra. 12 large pieces of carrot cake for that recipe. And the non-gluten one makes a little bit more, Okay, so let's line all of these folks up and have a think about how we're going to decorate it. I had kind of, anyway, I was going to do this idea. And get my little spatula here. Just doing something really simple. Don't need to be a fancy pastry chef. So we have these clusters that we made, the carrot cake granola. I also took some and I ground them. So you could put some ground on top. And you could even come back and put some of, these little clusters on there because they're so yummy. Let's get a few more out. And here. All right, so a nice little simple way to decorate your cakes. So let's put them on this tray here. You can see them all together. So we've got 1, 2, 3. Move them down a bit. So it always looks nice, see, like when you're in the pastry shop, if they're all lined up like so, okay? All right. So there you have it, guys. Gluten-free vegan carrot cake. Gluten-free vegan carrot cake, okay? Look at that. It's not falling apart, super, super moist. I hope you enjoyed this recipe. please do give Panaseg a try. It is a total game changer, especially if you're someone abstaining from gluten, or you want to really surprise someone that you really care about that is celiac or gluten intolerant. You know, I'm sure that they're sick of all of the dry, crappy recipes of cake out there. So please give it a try. Check out freefromthat.com for all the ingredients. And if you want to learn more about vegan pastry, egg replacement, the science behind it, or you just want to get some recipes that work every time and learn all the fundamentals of vegan baking or pastry, come check out all our programs at vegangastronomy.com and the specials that are running at the moment on our website. We also do savory cuisine too, so don't forget to check that out. I'll be here every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Athens time, that's Eastern European Standard Time, or catch Stephanie on Tuesdays at 1 p.m. I love to hear from you guys, so please pop your comments in the comment section below, find the recipe in the description box, and I will see you next week. Always a pleasure to have you join us. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you then.